Oh, there you go. Terrific. Hi, guys. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. My name is Lovey Russo, and I'm an alcoholic. And it's only by the grace of God and Alcoholics Anonymous that I'm alive, sober, and recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body. I have a sobriety date. It's September the 7th of 2015. And in that really, really short amount of time, there has been no need or obsession to pick up a drink or a drug. I have a sponsor. Much to my chagrin, I have a sponsor, a really good sponsor, and my sponsor has a sponsor. Myself, I'm a sponsor, and I sponsor sponsors. I made the mistake about complaining about a GSR meeting once. So now I have a service sponsor who happens to be the delegate for New Jersey. So guys, you got to be really, really careful about service sponsors and what you complain about. I am a really huge proponent of all 36 principles that Alcoholics Anonymous eschews. And so that is the steps, the traditions, and the concepts. So anybody who works with me, we go through all 36 principles, and we go through those three legacies. My home group is the Main Purpose Group in Milford, Connecticut, but I live in the beautiful island of Bermuda as a result of making an amends. And if COVID ever resolves itself, guys, and you find yourself on the beautiful island of Bermuda, you're either coming in by cruise or a hotel resort and you want to go to a meeting, please, please, please let me know. I am more than happy to take you or make arrangements for you to be taken to a meeting. That is part of my privilege and my responsibility. Living in paradise. And conversely, if you find yourself in New England, I have a home in New England. I'm in Connecticut right now for the holidays. If you ever find yourself in New England and you want to go to a meeting here, please, please, please let me know. I'm happy to do that as well. We talked about it a little bit in the opening reading. I'm so amazed that technology has allowed us to participate in our sobriety despite this pandemic, right? I now have sponsees all over the world. And the forward to the 4th edition says, in any meeting anywheres, AAs share experience, strength, and hope with each other in order to stay sober and help other alcoholics. Modem to modem or face to face, AAs speak the language of the heart in all of its power and simplicity. And in 1960, Bill Wilson wrote, nothing matters more to AA's future welfare than the manner in which we use the colossus of modern communication. Used unselfishly and well, it can produce results surpassing our present imagination. And that's where I find myself today, right? This virtual platform, for me, must have been what the printed book of Alcoholics Anonymous was back in 1939. The forward to the 2nd edition says a wholesale miracle has taken place, right? The printed book has allowed for mass production of spiritual awakenings. I now have sponsees who have never once set foot in a brick and mortar building, right? I see people on this meeting who got sober during this pandemic, who've never once set foot in a brick and mortar meeting. But with this technology, with this book, they too have been able to experience that miraculous solution to alcoholism. And for that, I'm so excited and so very, very grateful. Steve, thank you so much for asking me to speak tonight. Guys, speaking is not my favorite thing to do, but I seem to be doing it a lot. I don't know, take that what it is. I've been relegated to the basement. I usually have an office, but I have 6 children and 5 of them were able to come home for the holidays. So the bedrooms are now full again. And I have the opportunity, I get to broadcast from my basement. And I'm really, really privileged for that. So thank you so much. If you have heard me before, by all means, feel free to log off. There's no reason to sit through this pain again. And for those of you that think that this might be exciting, manage your expectations. Just like manage them now, because I don't know where this is going to go. I can only share with you my experience. I can only share with you my truth and my reality, both in the program and in active alcoholism, right? I'm an alcoholic. That's all I can really share about. And I'm a fellow traveler on this journey. I don't profess to know anything about Alcoholics Anonymous, the big book, or about God. You see, those experiences change daily. And as a result of the 3rd step, I am out of management, guys. Everything now is above my pay grade. And the 3rd step reminds me that I'm an agent of God, and my only job, right? My only job. On page 77, it says that it's my job to fit myself to be of maximum service to God and the people around me, right? That is my job today, to take care of God's kids. I am extremely grateful to Alcoholics Anonymous. Grateful is what I am, and gratitude is what I do. For me, this is a simple program of spiritual action. And AA for me stands for action and accountability, right? I don't get struck sober sitting in a room of Alcoholics Anonymous. There's work that I have to do. There are steps that I need to take, right? No, I'm not going to say that. I will just tell you, though, that when I first walked into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I will preface this. Before I got to this meeting, I told Steve that I was in a big book meeting. I was facilitating a big book meeting, and we were working on working with others. So I'm sort of in that 12-step mode right now. So we will swing around to all of this. But guys, when I first walked into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I was facing 16 years in prison. And I would hear you guys say on a beautiful Sunday morning, "Hi, my name is so-and-so," lyrically, like you would sing it out. "My name is so-and-so, and I'm a grateful alcoholic." Like, what the hell is wrong with you? How could you be grateful? First of all, it's 7:30 in the morning and you're sitting in a room of Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, you could be hungover, you could be playing golf, you could be water skiing, you could be skating, you could be doing something, but instead you're sitting in a room of Alcoholics Anonymous and you're saying grateful. I mean, I wasn't very grateful and I wasn't very happy. And I wanted to drink and I couldn't. And I didn't come to AA to stop drinking, but for you people to teach me how to drink safely, how to drink like a lady, right? Or to drink those really silly Caribbean drinks that are filled with fruit and umbrellas, right? I didn't drink like that, guys. I drank whiskey. I drank whiskey straight from the bottle. And I figured that you guys were professionals. You knew what you were doing. I mean, you guys were Alcoholics Anonymous. You were the pros, right? You could teach me how to be a more responsible drinker. But guess what? You didn't do that. Instead, what you did was you showed me these steps that would hang on the walls. And you told me that drinking was not my problem, but my solution. You see, I had never, ever heard that before. I was always under the impression that alcohol was my problem. At least that's what everybody said, right? My husband with frothy emotional appeals, spittle flying from his mouth. "Stop drinking. Why do you drink so much?" Right? My children in tears. "Mommy, mommy, why do you have to drink? Mommy, can't you come to school?" Right? My employer, "What the hell? You're fired." Right? "Why do you drink so much?" And the only honest answer I could ever give them was, "I don't know." I had absolutely no idea why I drank. But see, but it was you guys who had a solution. You see, I love alcohol. I still do. I love everything about it, right? If I had known my last drink was going to be my last drink, I would have thrown a party, right? I would have invited the media. There would have been a parade. There would have been all sorts of really fun things going on. But unfortunately, that was not the case. And there was no party. What there was a lot of crying and a lot of sadness. But I absolutely loved whiskey, right? I loved everything about it. You know, I love the way that whiskey looked when you know, the sun shone through a crystal goblet, and I loved the way that it smelled. And whiskey was my best friend. It was my lover. It was my confidant. It was there when I celebrated and when I cried. And I drank when I was happy and I drank when I was sad. I drank no matter what. Whiskey transported me to this place of comfort and ease. You see, booze did for me what I could never, ever do for myself. And the book says that we drink primarily for the effect, right? See, booze was magical. It made me taller. It made me younger or older, depending where I was in my life. See, I was a daily drinker from the age of 15. Right? It provided courage and self-confidence. Alcohol transformed me into the person I could never, ever be by myself. In a letter to Bill Wilson, Carl Jung wrote, "Spiritus contra spiritum," right? God, the spirit, capital S, versus alcohol, the spirit, small s, right? There's a reason why alcohol is called a spirit, and it's derived from an Arabic term, al-ghal, meaning body-eating spirit. Guys, when I was drinking, alcohol devoured and consumed me spiritually, mentally, and physically. I was nothing but an empty shell of a human being. I can hear my kids, they're playing video games, so my apologies. From a really early age, and I hear this all the time with alcoholics, how we feel different then, how we feel like outsiders, how we feel that we just don't belong. And I too shared these feelings. I have two younger sisters. And for the longest time, I really thought that I was adopted, right? I just figured that there was no way I could be genetically linked to these people. I just don't fit. And I would scrunch up my sisters' faces and I'd look at the three of us in the mirror. And guys, we are absolutely sisters. There's just no doubt about it. But the problem was me, right? I was the problem. And I grew up as a kid in the 70s, and it was all about, invasion of the body snatchers or space alien invasion or robotic transplants or whatever it was. And I used to believe that I was the only human being around. And this happened when I was like at 5 years old. This happened before I even started kindergarten, right? I'm already a misfit. I'm already a misfit, and I'm a preschooler, right? And my life has been this series of events that just constantly remind me how isolated and separated and terminally unique I am from all of you. And I never understood it, and I never could put my finger on it. And it wasn't until I crawled into these rooms that you people told me that what I had was a spiritual malady. And you gave me words to describe it. You told me I was irritable, restless, and discontent. You finally gave me words to describe how I was feeling. And then you said something else really interesting. You said, I never have to feel this way again. Right? But in order to do that, I had to be thoroughly honest and engage in this program known as the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, what you guys did tell me was that a spiritual malady doesn't make me alcoholic, right? There are lots of people with spiritual maladies who aren't alcoholics. What makes me alcoholic is that I have a physical allergy when I drink, right? And this strange mental obsession. And I used to really, truly believe that it was the 8th or the 9th drink that got me drunk. Right? My kids were sitting around, and they were talking about my drinking escapades during the holidays, and how I could empty a bottle of Bailey's while we were opening Christmas presents. Right? I could empty an entire bottle of Bailey's. And I really believed that, it would be the 8th or the 9th drink that got me drunk. And that if I could stop drinking at 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, I would be okay. But in my experience, 1 or 2 drinks, and then 4 or 5, and then 6, 8, 9, 10, and the bottle is empty. And I wouldn't understand how that happened, right? Why does this keep happening? I'm going to stop. I'm not going to drink anymore. I promise. I promise. And I'm telling the truth. Right? And the book uses this really great phraseology, pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. I don't know why this keeps happening. But see, then again, it was you guys, again, who told me that when I drink, I trigger an allergy and the phenomenon of craving. And that the first drink insists on the second, which demands the third and screams for the fourth, and so on and so on and so on. It would be absolutely moot if I didn't pick up that first drink in the first place, right? But I have a body that can't drink and a mind that won't let me stop. And that's the second part of my issue, right? I have this peculiar mental twist or this obsession, as the book calls it, where my mind tells me that the next time I drink, it's going to be different. I promise it's going to be different the next time you drink. Right? And that if I do stop drinking for a short period of time, that by all rights, I should be able to participate in a champagne toast at one of my kids' weddings, right? Or that, I can join them with a glass of wine for Christmas dinner. And that if I do that, I won't end up in handcuffs or the hospital, despite all the previous experiences to the contrary. The closest thing that I've been ever able to find to describe this is childbirth. And if you guys have heard this before, I apologize, but it's just the only thing I get. I have 6 children. I gave birth to them all naturally. I had a 10-pound baby boy, and I had a set of twins, twin girls, 7'2" and 7'4", big babies. And to this day, they're all in their 20s. I cannot tell you how uncomfortable or how painful childbirth was. Why? I have no relative memory of the pain. Why? Because I truly believe God gives women amnesia so we have more babies, right? Because if, if we remembered what that was like, oh, we wouldn't have done it a second time, right? So if you've been with a woman who has given birth or given birth yourself, why would you do that a second time, right? Why would you do that a second time? But here I am, 6 babies later, right? Why? Because I have no relative memory of the pain. And in our book, it talks about we are unable at certain times to bring into consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the humiliation and suffering of even a week or a month ago. We are without defense against that first drink, right? I forget how hard childbirth is. I forget how ugly and destructive my drinking was. Right? I forget that when I drink, I have esophageal bleeds and I'm passed out on my living room floor, bleeding out to have my youngest daughter find me, right? I forget that I cause pain and destruction everywhere I go, right? I have no defense. And that's a real problem for someone like me, because I remember the good times. I remember the camaraderie. I remember, you know, how alcohol was that social lubricant. I don't remember the bad things. So I chatted with my mom yesterday, and that relationship is getting better. And she's in her 80s, and she reminded me how well all of her babies slept through the night from the moment we got home from the hospital. And the reason she brought it up, because somebody, one of her little widow friends, has a new great grandbaby, and that baby is sleeping really, really well. And my mother put whiskey in my baby bottle when I was brand new, right home from the hospital. And she would put, whiskey on our gums when we were teething. She put it in hot toddies. For all of the Canadians out there, I grew up in Sudbury. In January, we have -40 below weather. So, whiskey in our milk, that worked. In our hot chocolate, that worked. And the other thing she would do is she would wash our hands with whiskey. Like, we go out to the park, go play outside, and she'd wash our hands with whiskey. And I remember sucking the whiskey out from underneath my fingernails. Right? Who the hell needs fried chicken when you've got whiskey marinating underneath your fingernails? Oh my God, that's the elixir of the gods, guys. The elixir of the gods. And the reason I bring this up is because my mom yesterday told me that she continues to make this concoction, and it's whiskey, grilled onions, and vinegar. And she uses it as a general medication or concoction for malaise, COVID, you name it, she uses it. And when I was a kid, I had to deal with my sisters that for a quarter, I would take their dose of this homemade whiskey medication, right? Huge win-win for me. Right? Because I got 2 extra doses of whiskey and I made 50 cents. And back in my day, 50 cents bought chips and a pop. Oh, I mean, I was a rock star, guys. I was a rock star back then. Well, I wish I could tell you that my progression in alcoholism was, sort of a straight line, and how consequences eventually started catching up with me. But again, my experience is different. I had consequences from the very beginning, very, very beginning. So like I said, I'm from Sudbury. For those of you that don't know where that is, that's up in Northern Ontario. It's way north. And people joke there are 3 things to do on a Sudbury Saturday night: get drunk, get stoned, get pregnant. And all 3 of those things have been known to happen on the same night. As it turns out, I experienced that firsthand. My very first drink on my own, I was 14. I went to a party, got blackout drunk, because that's the way I drink, guys, right? I drink and I pass out. I black out. And I got pregnant, and I have absolutely no idea with whom, by whom, any events relating to that evening whatsoever. And that baby was placed for adoption at birth. And without tools, right, I turned to the only thing that provided any source of comfort, and that's alcohol. You see, alcohol is reliable, right? I know exactly how much to drink to get me where I need to be. Dry goods, not always so much. Quality assurance isn't quite the same as alcohol, but alcohol worked. But booze started to turn on me. Booze started to turn, and I started to put myself into dangerous situations just to be able to drink the way that I wanted to drink. I was raped at gunpoint. I drove too fast. I rolled cars. I experimented with non-conference approved dry goods. I was expelled from high school. Surprise, surprise. I was arrested. Surprise, surprise. And I began a nearly year-long sexual affair with a man who was more than 3 times my age. But every time we met, he made sure there was whiskey. Right? I met my husband when I was 17. And at 19, we got pregnant again. And I lost that baby at 29 weeks of gestation. She was a stillbirth. And without tools, I drank, because that's all I know how to do. You see, guys, but as my drinking progressed, I began to cross lines I never thought I would. And our book talks about having moral and philosophical convictions galore. I had these convictions. I was raised well. My sisters are really great citizens, right? I was the problem. I was just unable to consistently able to abide by these convictions. And my standards of behavior began to drop, and I started to justify my actions. Now, my grand sponsor says that if I have to justify, defend, or rationalize my behavior, it's wrong, period. Wrong. Everything came to a head Labor Day week in 2015. I was invited to a neighborhood party. Firemen, I love men in uniform. Firemen are throwing a party. They invite me over, show up with my own bottle, because heaven forbid you guys don't drink the swill. I do, right? My swill. And I'm making drinks for these firemen, and their bottle is going down at the same rate mine's going. And I'm only drinking by myself. And when I left that party, there were guys puking over the deck railing. And I walked home, right? Still continue drinking. And I was proud of myself, so proud of myself for out drinking these big burly men. You see, guys, when I drink until I pass out or I run out. And I never run out. So as it turns out, I go home, I drink, I pass out, and I get a telephone call, and it's work. And work asks me to come in. And what I should have said is, no, I'm sorry, I can't, because I've been drinking. But I didn't. I said, sure, I'll be in. Guys, here's something you have to know. I'm a pilot, or I was a pilot. And we have a rule in aviation, 8 hours from bottle to throttle. And what that means is that 8 hours before we fly, we do not take any mind-altering substances into our bodies. I wasn't on the schedule. I have been flying for 30 years. I could have very easily and convincingly said that I had been drinking, but my ego wouldn't allow that. So I said I'd be in. I got up, took a few drinks, showered, put on my uniform, right? I have a uniform with very fancy gold shoulders, or gold bars on my shoulders. And I began to take my trek into the airport. It's a long weekend morning, and along the way, I was caught up in a sobriety field check. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I don't like those things. Like, what the heck, right? It's like it's almost intentionally designed to catch specific drivers. They're profiling specific drivers. You can't go backwards, you can't go left, you can't go right. You have no choice but to inch your way forward, right? So it's my turn, and I'm eating mints and freshly showered, and the police officer shines in, the flashlight and just waves me through. Oh my God, right? I just dodged a bullet. How is this possible? I get to the airport, I arrive in one piece, and I get my manifest, I climb into my aircraft. I'm a heavy haul helicopter pilot. And guys, to this day, I still remember having this conversation with myself. remember saying to myself, what the hell are you doing? What is wrong with you? In the 30 years of professional aviation, you have never once crossed this line. But what you guys thought about me was way more important. And I was willing to risk the lives of babies sleeping in their cribs just so that none of you would know I had a drinking problem. And I did the absolutely most insane thing of my life. I engaged those rotors and I took off. And it was an absolutely beautiful September morning and nothing happened. And I landed that aircraft without incident. And as I sat there during the 2-minute cool down period, I was absolutely freaking baffled by what I had just done. You know, I crawled out of that aircraft and I fell to the tarmac. And you know, our book talks about that jumping off place where we realized we couldn't live with alcohol, we couldn't live without it. And we would know loneliness like never before. And we would wish for the end. And I was there. Alcohol had beat me into a state of reasonableness. I don't know if you guys have noticed this about me, but I'm just a wee bit dramatic. Just a wee bit dramatic. And I'm feeling sorry for myself. And I know the authorities are coming and I'm crying and I look like Tammy Faye Baker. I got big black streaks like this streaming down my face. And when I finally crawl into the cab of my truck, I look out at the car parked in front of me. And in the state of Connecticut, we have license plates that start with 2 letters, a dash, and then numbers and letters in some combination. And the car parked in front of me had the letters AA dash something else. That was the first time, guys, the first time I really truly recognized a sign from God. And I crawled into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. You see, my higher power has a really wicked sense of humor and uses what I call God shots to make a point. You see, alcoholism was the baseball bat that God used to get my attention, right? I walked into the rooms of AA hoping you people would teach me how to drink like a lady. But instead, I found God first as the gift of desperation, which in turn became a group of drunks, to finally good orderly direction, to as a result of working these steps and having had a spiritual awakening, an intimate and vertical relationship with a God of my understanding. See, that's the magic of it. And I continue to know that I am powerless in all aspects of my life, right? I am powerless. You know, just as the moon is a big body of rock, it has and does not generate light on its own. That light source comes from the sun, right? I don't have any power of my own. The power that I have comes from my relationship with God. And just as the moon is illuminated by the sun, I'm illuminated by this relationship that I have with God. You know, as an alcoholic, one of the most glaring character defects I have is self-importance, right? Like, oh, me. And I have to constantly remind myself that the universe as we understand it is about what, 13 billion years old? I'm 55. Like, what do I know in comparison to 13 billion years of wisdom? Nothing, right? There are what, about 7 billion people on the planet, and I'm one person. If I were to die today, maybe 100 people would be affected by my death, right? There's perspective. My higher power reminds me to stay right-sized, alert, and vigilant, right? And by engaging in this program of recovery outlined in the first 164 pages of this book, my life and my ego are kept right-sized, right? I'm out of management, guys. I'm always out of management. I also know that all of my problems today are of my own making, even if they aren't inherently orchestrated by my hand. It's all about my perception, my reaction, and my attitude, right? AA is action and accountability, or attitude alignment. You see, I have tools today. I had tools today that I never had in the past, right? And I have to be constantly willing to allow God to remove these defects of character. And some are really spicy, guys, and some I'm really attached to, and some I'm not willing to let go. And that's when I get myself into trouble. Step 7 for me allows God's grace to remove those defects. Sometimes those defects are gone for life, sometimes a day, sometimes an hour. More often than not, it's only 30 seconds and I have to ask again in 30 seconds. It's what I do standing at the grocery store in line behind the little old lady paying in coupons and pennies. And there was someplace I needed to be a half an hour ago, right? What do I do in that situation? Right? We just had Christmas, guys. How many times did we have to stand behind somebody? Right? What do? I recognize my impatience and I go to God and I ask God to remove it. And then I resolutely turn my attention to someone I can help. Excuse me, ma'am, can I help bag your groceries? Can I help you out to the car? Right? I have no business being impatient because fundamentally, inherently, I know it's little old lady Tuesday. And I know that's the only day she can get to the store. And I know she's on a fixed income. And I know she's maximizing her budget. I'm the problem, right? I didn't get to the store in a timely manner. I didn't organize my day. It's my fault all the way through. My fault. There was also a time before AA where I sat in justifiable anger, right? And I stewed in it and I nurtured it and I cherished it, right? Oh, I love doing that, right? And believe it or not, there was a time when I was a little more fit and I would go to the gym and I would kickbox, right? Nothing more than diffusing aggression by beating the crap out of the bag. Oh, I got a bag right there. Whack, whack, whack. But as a result of these steps, you guys, I have no inclination to hit the bag or anything, right? It all feels like it's just so much work, right? It's like, oh, I don't want to do that. That internal churning, the anger, the need to physically dominate my world is gone. I now have an internal peace, a serenity that I hope permeates every part of me. Every morning I surrender my opinion, my judgment, and what I think I know about God, right? I wake up with a clean slate and I'm ready to accept the best of the world and all of her people. You see, I get to do that today because of this program. Man, that is absolutely amazing. Our 12th step says that having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. For me, guys, and only for me, step 12 is a 3-part step. The first part is a promise, right? It's a guarantee that if I work the first 11 steps, I am promised, I'm guaranteed a spiritual awakening. The first 11 steps are the directions for finding a God of my understanding. Sandy Beach said that the steps were a treasure map for finding God. And that's really, really cool. The book is full of conditions, right? So in order for me to have this spiritual awakening, I need to be thoroughly honest. I'm an alcoholic. I can come up with really elaborate lies at the drop of a hat. Right? I can tell you a lie when it's easier to tell the truth. I don't know why. It's just the way it is. I have to be thoroughly honest. No half measures. Shit. You know what? I can half-ass anything. And fearless. Fearless. The book tells me I'm driven by 100 forms of fear. But if I'm thoroughly honest and no half measures and fearless, I'm guaranteed a spiritual awakening. And you see, for someone like me, that's really, really cool. And why is that? Because in our Judeo-Christian society, where does God exist? Up there, right? And as a pilot, where do I spend most of my time? Up there. And what am I doing? I'm looking down at creation and all you little minions, right? Ego deflation. My sponsor said to me, Lovey, not only are you not God, you're not a demigod, and you're not even a goddess. Right? Ego deflation. Like I said, my sponsor is a huge bane to my existence, but I need that. I need that. The second part of step 12 is to carry this message to alcoholics. This message, this is the charge, right? Nothing in life comes for free. So if I get this really beautiful spiritual awakening, there is a charge to it. And what do I have to do? I have to carry the message. And for me, this message is found on the foreword to the first edition of the book. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. Guys, I get to take people through the steps. I speak at meetings. I facilitate big book studies. You know, I serve as a GSR and as my group chairman. I participate in the traditions and the concepts. You know, I participate in all 36 principles of our program to the best of my ability. I also have a responsibility to take others through the steps, right? That for me, the message is hope and recovery, that I get to live happy, joyous, and free. And I get this recovery through engaging in the steps to find a power greater than me. The book uses the word approach 28 times. I have a responsibility as a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous to go out and find the newcomer. I go to the wind-up joints. I go to the places we wind up when we drink again. Jails, rehabs, detoxes, right? I go to great fishing spots and beginner meetings. And I have a responsibility to look for that face I don't recognize, right? Whether it's brick and mortar or virtual. And if it's brick and mortar, or even if it's virtual, you know, I'll go up to that new person and say, "Hi, are you new?" "Yes." "Welcome. My name is Lovey. Here's the coffee. Here are the donuts. You know, here's the bathroom. Here's a meeting book. Here's a scheduled book. Here's a book. Please come and sit beside me. Let me introduce you to some people. Would you like to go for coffee after the meeting and talk?" Another new face. "Hi, are you new?" No, I'm just visiting." "Welcome. My name is Lovey, especially in Bermuda. Welcome. Here's the coffee. We don't donut in Bermuda, we scone. So here are the scones, here are the bathrooms. Here's a meeting schedule. Let me circle the meetings closest to your hotel. Do you need a ride? How can I be helpful and useful to you while you are here visiting our island? Another new face. "Hi, are you new?" No, I have 30 years. I'm looking for new meetings. I'm just coming back. You know, I have a resentment and a coffee pot. Welcome. My name is Lovey. Here's the coffee, here are the donuts, here are the bathrooms. Here's a brand new meeting schedule. Here's a 4th edition book in case you're still using a 3rd edition. Please come and sit beside me. Can I introduce you to some new people? You see, guys, this is my responsibility and my pleasure to do, and I get to do that. The third part of step 12 is to practice these principles in all of my affairs. All of my affairs, not just the ones that I think I want to participate in today. All of them. It's how I deal with my family, my work, my society at large, AA, whatever, everything. And these principles are spiritual in nature. And this is the challenge, right? This is the challenge in my life. And I try really, really hard, although not always successfully, to be tolerant and compassionate. To be patient and to be forgiving. I try to employ love and goodwill, humility, honesty, consideration, restitution, fidelity, and acceptance. You see, I get to be a producer of harmony today rather than conflict and confusion. Guys, life is way too precious and way too short. I don't have time or the inclination to be in anger, conflict, or hate. I mentioned restitution. Restitution is a huge spiritual principle in my life, and restitution obviously follows the 9th step, amends. I had to make amends to an aviation or to a government agency that oversees aviation here in the United States. And I had been putting it off for quite a long time. And again, I have this sponsor who's a pain in my backside, but my sponsor would not let it go. And my sponsor said, "You know, when are you going to make that amends? When are you going to make that amends? When are you going to make that amends?" And being a really good alcoholic, I kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. Finally, I had a moment of clarity, elucidation. I said, "I know how to get rid of my sponsor. I'm going to call up my attorney and I'm going to tell my attorney what my sponsor had suggested." Thank goodness for attorneys. My attorney said, "Hell no, are you crazy? Are you out of your mind? We worked so hard to keep you out of jail and you want to go do what?" Vindicated, people, vindicated, right? So a bit of smug superiority and some glibness. I reach out to my sponsor. I go, hey, sponsor. Guess what my attorney said? And my sponsor says to me, is that right? How free do you want to be? Get on your knees and pray for the willingness to be willing. So I did what my sponsor suggested, and I made an appointment with this agency. And I took my attorney because I knew I was going to need him, my union rep, my aviation physician, and another sober pilot. And as I stood before this panel, I told them that I was a sober woman in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I told them that my sobriety was predicated on making right the wrongs of my past, and that I wasn't there to beg for my job back, or to have my license reinstated, or to get my medical back. I was only there with the intention of doing the next right thing, and that I would accept any judgment they made for me, any decision they made for me right then and there. You see, guys, I could have been arrested and remanded to custody on the spot, and I was prepared to go to jail. In fact, I had made preparations to go to jail. I had spoken to my husband about it, and you know, I had letters written for my children for the birth, for their weddings and for the birth of their first babies. But here's God working in my life again. Man there said, I too am a sober man in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I know exactly what you're trying to do. He said, this is what we want you to do. Never drink again, one day at a time. And we want you to help share what alcoholism is and what it isn't in the aviation community, and help other pilots find recovery. You guys, I will never fly again. I am done. I am grounded. I am retired. But that doesn't mean that the people that I help have to be, right? My experience, the shame, the remorse, the humiliation that I suffered, I can now use that experience to help others, not only in aviation, but in any profession, right? Oh, the feelings that we have after such things, I can share that with others. We're running out of time. I get that. I can see Steve looking a little worried, but I'm going to leave you with this. In my experience, there's a grand plan. I'm not privy to it. And oh my God, that bugs me like no end. But everything happens for a reason, and more is always going to be revealed. That baby I placed for adoption back when I was a teenager was a boy, and he found me several years back, and he's a grown man. He's a combat surgeon, and he holds the rank of lieutenant colonel because he's Canadian. And he works with civilian refugee populations only. And he has helped countless people, saved thousands of lives, and has restored humanity one person at a time. You see, guys, it took me 35 years to understand the divine purpose of his birth. You see, I was a vessel, right? I provided genetics in a womb. His adoptive parents nurtured and cared for him, and they gave him opportunities. The military trained him, and God put this young man where he would be of maximum service. I am so honored and so privileged to be a part of God's grand plan. Guys, if you are new or nearly new, please get a sponsor, someone who has experience in the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, because this is where the instructions are. These are where the directions are. And please do the work. You are worth it. If you're a veteran of this program, please reach out your hand to a newcomer and show them that it works. It really, really does. And if you'll indulge me one more minute, page 164 in our book. It says, our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great things will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God, and admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you. Until then. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Please stay safe. Remember, all the amateur drinkers are on the road. So be careful. Be careful. Thanks for allowing me to be of service.